Hey, what's up guys? So we're back, part 2 series of the quick 1-2 combo color scheme for this Redwood look that we went for. So this part 2 is gonna show you how I go about colorizing the edge. A couple of things to note: when we're coloring the top, this is on a horizontal plane, so colors are gonna settle down. On the vertical, it's gonna act differently, right? You got gravity forcing the colorants to go downward. I'll show you my process. Let's just jump right in. Okay, so my first step is I'm gonna really water up the edges, and I'm addressing the camera because when I go to the front to demonstrate, my back's gonna be turned towards the camera, so I just wanna do an FYI on that. But the process goes like this. I'm gonna wet it down considerably, and I'm gonna start with a very dark color. I'm gonna show you how we're gonna draft that up. It's basically gonna be paleo black and tamarack brown. Probably wondering why I'm going dark first. Well, I'm only interested in putting dark color into the deep recesses of this edge. And then I'm gonna use water in the rag to blot off color that's on the bark outer edges. That makes sense? So let me demonstrate. All right guys, real quick, if you guys can take a quick second, hit the like button and subscribe. Super appreciate it, and we're gonna keep delivering content like this. Okay, so I'm gonna wet down this surface real quick. I'm really kind of wetting it up pretty good. Some of it's gonna soak in. If this was outside, you'd put a little more. And again, it's gonna run downward. So making sure you have plenty of water on that surface is important. All right, grab your rag. I do put a little water on the rag, like so. All right, let that soak in. And then I'm just gonna make a quick batch of tamarack brown, which is like a reddish, darkish brown. FYI, I did mix these up with the drill paddle. I always try to stress that. It's not a step you wanna overlook. And I'm gonna add paleo black. I'm adding a drop. Right now, I'm sitting at, let's see here, right around 4 ounces. So I'm literally putting a drop. I'm not putting an ounce. I'm not even putting maybe a half an ounce. I'm putting a drop. Just like that. And as you do this over time, when you add mileage to coming up with your own colorations for realism, you're gonna know right off the top. It's almost like a cup of coffee. You know that cup of coffee is gonna be a little weak if you can see through it through the cup, or vice versa in terms of being strong on how dense and black it is. All right, so I got that mixed up. And as you know, I'm a big fan of watercolor paper. I don't have it today, but I would urge you to use a piece of watercolor paper to know where you're starting from. If you have to add more black or add more tamarack brown to the mixture to either darken it, adding black, or going back to its root color, tamarack brown. All right, we got that mixed up. Let me jump around the frame and we'll start to apply. Okay, so I'm gonna give it one more quick spritz right along the edge there. We'll take the tamarack brown black mixture, and I'm gonna do the whole thing. Even though it's real watery, that's fine, I'm working it in. So what I'm looking for is I'm really just trying to cover those low recess areas. I don't want any white concrete showing. If you even integral color this, I would still do this step as well. And here's where you can blot off. I can wipe off this outermost surface. I want to preserve that. You see what's happening there? That's going to hopefully stay in the grooves, most of it. If you have to do a second application, it's totally fine. But this works real nice as like a pre-coat, especially with the aggressive texture. I really want to get it right down into those pores. See how it's really working down in there? I go in a circular motion. Kind of running over that one more time. Okay, see I'm wiping, I'm removing from the surface. Now one would ask, like I said, why are you working dark to light? Well, I'm not really, because I really want to maintain this edge. The bark is darker in value tone. That's a piece of strip bark. That's actually the actual core of the log. Okay, so we're back. We're gonna let that drip dry for a little bit. If you got a heat gun, hit it with a heat gun. I'm probably gonna do so. Give us a minute, we'll put a heat gun on it and be right back. Okay guys, so we just wanna take a quick minute just to address a couple of things. First thing, it's almost dry. A lot of this is dry. I would definitely play the patience game. Some of these lower recesses aren't fully dry, and it'd be a waste of time to go ahead and start to put more color on that, because you're probably gonna disturb that. This was outside, it's gonna dry a lot quicker. The other thing too, if you wanted to let that pigment settle at the bottom, like what we did on the top, being on a horizontal plane, you can rotate this piece. Being this small, you can rotate it, put a couple of blocks or bookends to hold it upright, and then go ahead and put your antique coat on in that fashion. I think there's a couple of pictures still on Trinic's Facebook page in which we did those planners, did a crackle, worked out really nice. The crackle texture has those deep recesses in which we allow that pigment to kind of settle to the low-lying areas. So this is pretty much dry. I do have a little bit of time left, but it gives us an opportunity to jump into this area right here. This area, you can see in the mold that the bark has been removed. So that's gonna show more of that honey tone, that warm undertone that we applied on the base coat when we started this process. Let me jump around the front and we'll start to apply that. I'm gonna add a little water just to help move things along. Grab my rag. Come around here, I'm just blotting off the excess there. I think that's all we're gonna put. I think that's the only area. Blot off. Okay, so you see I just applied that. We're gonna let it drip dry. Again, gravity is at play here. The coloring is going down. If there's still pigment on the brush, which there is, right there, just caught a drip that hit the top surface. No problem, we had water on there. I might have to reapply just at the top surface as this moves downward. Something to be mindful of. So we got this drying. I'm gonna let that drip dry. Gives us an opportunity to jump back over here. From a production perspective, you can jump around as long as you know the stuff's dry and where you at in the process. Okay, so our next step is we're gonna take the Sequoia Red right out of the bottle that we did in part 1. That's that reddish color that's on the top of that surface there. And we're gonna take the antique color that we applied in the bark, the deep recesses of the bark, which was Tamarack Brown and a little bit of Paleo Black. I'm gonna jump around the front and I'm gonna do a wet on wet technique. I think it's important to include some of that Sequoia Red into the surface. I want this to have continuity from an art perspective, and then also honoring Mother Nature. That's kind of how I see the Redwood. It's got that deep reddish mahogany, flaky bark. Let's try to simulate that. Okay, so I'm gonna start by putting that Tamarack Brown Black mixture. And you notice I'm not using water at this point. I'm just gonna go ahead and blot on. Now I'm gonna dip my brush in the red. You know, take some of that extra, and I'm gonna do a wet on wet. I'm not looking to, you know, dab the whole thing. Just looking to integrate some of that red in there, and this is gonna blend on the surface. This really adds a layer of realism that's just hard to get by doing a single component. Meaning that I let the brown on and then I went in and full finish in the red. Very difficult, time consuming. The wet on wet I think works well. So I put a layer of that black brown mixture, dip my brush in the red again. If you're on a job site, paper plates work real well for this, or the plastic ones. There you go. You can dab on, dab off. Okay. I'm keeping this super simple. As this YouTube channel grows, we get the likes and subscribes, we're going to be doing more complex looks. And that's just going to enhance the realism. But for something adequate, I think you can sell this immediately as something that's very adequate in the marketplace. As you can see, she'll start to dry nice. I can come back with the brown. I'm gonna put a little more brown here. Okay. And then I'm gonna jump over to this area here. Dip it in the brown again. Dabbing. %100% coverage, take the red, dab a little bit here and there. Right, something like that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The wet on wet, two colors, paleo black, tamarack brown, one set. We based the bark with that. While I was still wet and sitting on the surface, we went in with the sequoia red, and we put maybe 40% coverage here and there, leaving some of the brown. Those colors are going to meld together and provide that realism that you're looking for on that extruded bark. We're going to let that dry. Then we're going to come in and dress this raw area here. Stay tuned. Okay guys, we're pretty much dry on the edges, about 95%. This gives me an opportunity to jump on this portion, in which I'm going to show you how to do a quick glaze on that. We're just going to take the sequoia red and do a quick band of color. And then after that, pretty much done. We might do a final glaze, which is just going to be like a dark paleo black tamarack brown over the whole thing. Extremely watery. It's just to kind of, you know, unify or hit any of those lower recess areas that haven't been hit. Okay guys, so I'm going to just load my brush up with some sequoia red here. And I'm going to brush that in 100% coverage. I'm just going to wipe or dab. Just like so. And that's all I'm looking for. Okay guys, so went ahead and wrapped up that bare area. So that's pretty much a wrap. So to conclude, this was a really simple coloring process. I think that you guys can follow along and just mix and match with these color tones that I used here. Paleo black, sequoia red, tamarack brown, and an absolute white. Kept it real simple. Is this a Rembrandt piece? Probably not. Is it adequate in the marketplace? In my opinion, yes. Did you put a set of legs on this? You can sell this in your market. If you want to take it a step further, you can darken up the knots, add insect damage. Some of the stuff in the mold has some really neat effects that can be bought out. That is a function of time, which is going to increase the cost. If you got it in your profit margin, great, something to look at. Secondly, if you want to know more about how to cast these goods, check out Trinic's YouTube channel. They've got the video there to show you how to make the mold and cast. Really helpful. We're going to be diving more into that, but right now we're focusing on coloring and carving, and we're going to be doing some cast goods in the future. All right, guys, so I hope this was beneficial. We'll catch you on the next one. Later.